क्या बोल रहे थे?
Rohit, your mic is on mute.
इधर ही तो हूँ, इधर ही तो हूँ।
Yeah,
Ma'am,
Rohit.
I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible now.
Ma'am, actually, the philosophy didn't covered about the different sections of the Buddhism.
Okay, then I'll cover that. Whatever is left by Amuk sir, I'll cover that. I thought he would have covered all the schools of Buddhism. I was not aware about that. And did he cover everything about Jainism?
थोड़ा 5 मिनट दोगे मुझे, मैं करूँगा तुमको कॉल, काम करते
I
करते
don't think Jainism is covered.
Chitra ma'am, can you unmute yourself for a minute?
हाँ हाँ, ठीक है, बाय।
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, the previous class was about Buddhism and Jainism, but people are saying here that Jainism was not covered and even Buddhism schools were not covered. Is that so the case?
Okay, we'll check into that, ma'am. What is the thing?
Sure.
We'll check into. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, Rohit, let's resume from what I had to do today, and whatever is left over by the sir, I will cover that. Okay, Rohit?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome, Rohit. Now, let's begin from the topic that we've targeted for today. See, the last thing that I remember doing with you guys was we started with Indus Valley civilization, then we went to what is known as Vedic period. I told you Vedic period is divided into early Vedic period and later Vedic period. Right. Now, what follows after Vedic period is the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. But along with that, we also have a period of what is known as Mahajanapadas. Now, what's the difference? We remember Indus Valley civilization was the first urban civilization, right? Then we had early Vedic period where we saw the concept of janas. I told you the tribes are important in this time period. Mainly pastoralism is there. Then we saw the later Vedic period where we had the concept of janpad, that is territorial states. Right? Land becomes important, agriculture becomes prominent. Now, what happens when these janpads are developed in the later Vedic period? They rise in size, they rise in prominence, they rise in power. So this janpads, the territories, rise in every form, from area to power to people to population to agriculture to production and everything. And as a result, they develop into what is known as Mahajanpads. And this Mahajanpads is nothing but it is great kingdoms. So after the period of later Vedic phase, we see the rise of what is known as Mahajanpadas, that are also known as the great kingdoms. And during this time period only, we see the flourishment of both Buddhism and Jainism side by side. Now, if we talk about the Mahajanpadas, these are the prominent political units. And they emerged in the Indian subcontinent in mainly 6th century BC, and they were coinciding with Buddhism and Jainism period, and they are also known as the period of second urbanization. The first urbanization was Indus Valley civilization, and this is the period of second urbanization. So it becomes important. Anything till today, if is associated with urbanization in any way, it directly becomes prominent. So that is why Indus Valley civilization was very prominent, and this phase is also very prominent. By the way, because Amuk sir did take the lecture of Buddhism and Jainism, I don't know what all was covered, but I know one thing: each and every year, 1 to 2 questions in prelims would be directly asked from the notion of Buddhism and Jainism, or a comparison between Buddhism or Jainism, or the sources of Buddhism and Jainism, or any authors or writers, or the locations associated with Buddhism or Jainism, or what were the philosophies of Buddhism and Jainism. We will surely look after it. Whatever is left, I will look after it. But do remember that both the topics of Buddhism and Jainism are highly relevant for UPSC. Now, if we talk about Mahajanpadas, there were merely 16 Mahajanpadas that flourished. And where do we get the source of information about this 16 Mahajanpadas? There were two main sources of these 16 Mahajanpadas, where a reference of these 16 Mahajanpadas is given. First is a Buddhist source that is known as Angutar Nikaya. Angutar Nikaya. And another is a Jaina source, or that is Jainism source, and that is the text Bhagavati Sutra. So there are two prominent sources, one Buddhist source, one Jainism source that tell us, that give us information about these 16 Mahajanpadas that flourished in 6th century BC. That is Angutar Nikaya and that is Bhagavati Sutra. Now, if we talk about these 16 Mahajanpadas, they were political landscapes and they were mainly ruled in two manners. Either they were monarchical, or either they were ruled in a manner that is what is known as republican. Republican is also known as Gana or Jana, whatever you want to pronounce that. So, mainly all these 16 kingdoms, all these 16 political units were being run by a government that was either monarchical or it was either republican, right? So, if I have to give example of monarchical, we had Magadha. And you will also see Magadha will actually emerge as the most important Mahajanpadas, where the entire history will revolve around. And another important monarchical was Kosala. We also had Vatsa. We also had Avanti here. And if we have to look at over some republican ruled areas, we had Vajji, we had Malla. These were the most important areas that you could remember. Now, if we see at these 16 Mahajanpadas, I want to show you the location. Wait, let me. So, these were the prominent 16 Mahajanpadas that mainly flourished in the 6th century BC. And the Magadha was the most important one. You can see here the location of the Magadha. And the other important one is Avanti. We can see in the area of Madhya Pradesh. Other important one, we can also see Kuru in the north. We can see Anga and Kashi that are very close to what is the region of Magadha. So do remember, mostly they were located in the eastern belt of India. But yes, we also had some in the north, that is the Gandhara. We had the Kuru. We had some in the south, that is Asaka. And we also had some in the central region, that is Avanti, Matsya, Shurusena. You can remember. So these were the 16 prominent Mahajanpadas. Now we actually need to know capitals of some important Mahajanpadas. So do remember that. Firstly of Magadha. It was the most prominent one, and the capital of Magadha were two actually. One was Patliputra and another was Rajgriha. It is often also called as Girivraj. So do surely remember the capital of Magadha because it was the most prominent one. It had two capitals. One was Patliputra, the other was Rajgriha or Girivraj. And if we see the present location, it is somewhere in south central Bihar. And it was the most powerful one, south central Bihar. The second important one was Kosala. And Kosala is mostly in the eastern UP area of present India, eastern UP area. And it had the capital of Shravasti. Shravasti. Then another important one is Ang. Ang had the capital called Champa. And if we talk about the location of Ang, it is eastern Bihar, present day eastern Bihar. Then another important one was Avanti. And the capital of Avanti were actually two. There was a north capital that was Ujjaini. And there was a southern capital that was known as Maheshmati. And I've shown you the location. It was in the present day Malwa region or Madhya Pradesh. So in Madhya Pradesh, it was located in Malwa region. So like this, we have 16 Mahajanpadas. You at least need to know the names of all the 16 Mahajanpadas and the capital of only the prominent ones. And the fifth one was Vatsa. The capital was Kushambi. Then we had different Mahajanpadas. Just remember the name of them. Malla, Chedi, Kurus. Everyone would be knowing about Kuru due to Mahabharata. Then there was Panchals, Matsya, Shurusena, Asaka, Gandhar in the north. We will actually study a lot about Gandhar in art and culture because it was a prominent site for Gandhara sculptures. And then there was Kamboj and others. Two others. You could actually look the name in the book. And if we talk about these 16 sites, each and every site flourished in its own way. They had their own prominent kingdoms, but we are largely going to focus over Magadha because that is where the UPSC focuses over, and that is the portion that is only prominent for the UPSC syllabus. So, why did only Magadha came to prominence out of these 16 Mahajanpadas? What was the reason? Can anybody tell me if you have studied ancient history even once? What was the reason why only Magadha was able to flourish out of all the 16 Mahajanpadas? Why we only study about Magadha?
One of the reason was its location. Like
Okay, why so? Yeah,
the capitals like Rajgir. So Rajgir was surrounded by hills, and
good, very good.
Patliputra was like at like riverside it was. So the habitation was it was good for habitation and also for the movement because the water helped.
Very good, very good. So that this reflects you have read the concepts really well. Both of our points were exactly the points I was looking for.
Ma'am,
Yeah, go ahead.
ma'am, there was also, ma'am, availability of iron over there, ma'am.
Very
Like
good.
iron was very important mineral of those times.
Good.
So it was there. So that is why it flourished.
Well said. Any other points from anyone else? Both these points are equally important. I'm glad to see such participation. Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, expansionary nature of the kings who ruled Magad.
Can you repeat again?
Their expansionary nature, expanding
Okay,
the
powerful
territory.
rulers. Right.
Powerful, yes, ma'am.
Powerful rulers. Very good.
And ma'am, fertile soil of Gangetic plains.
Very good. Fertile soils of the Gangetic Plains. Great. So we have actually received all the right reasons why Magad was able to flourish and become the most prominent one out of all the sites. The first was it was having very fertile land. And because it was having fertile plains, fertile soils, so there was what is known as surplus agricultural production. And they were able to earn decent amount of revenue. Then, as was highlighted, strategic capitals. So, Rajgriha was actually surrounded by hills on all the sides. There were 5 hills through which Rajgriha was surrounded on all the sides. So, it used to act as a source of natural fortification. There was security. Nobody could easily enter Rajgriha. So, there was a natural fortification due to geographical reason. Similarly, if we talk about Patliputra, the other capital, it was a water fort. It was also known as what is called Jaladurg. because it was located at the confluence of Ganga, of Gandak River, of the Son River. So we could easily, carry out what is known as riverine trade. We could easily carry out riverine transport. So the Jaladurga Valley of Patliputra was very important for the flourishing of the riverine trade and transport. Then, as one of you highlighted, resource rich. The location was, in close proximity to iron ore deposits. We find iron ore deposits in the present day Jharkhand, right? So this location was very close to the present day iron ore deposit region. So we were able to make superior weapons in the Magadha. We could make superior agricultural tools in Magadha. And also because this region was not only resource rich in iron, but there were, very dense forests. So timber was easily available. We also had elephants that could be easily used in the army. So all these things, along with the powerful and ambitious rulers, we had Bimbisar, we had Ajatashatru, we had further future rulers who were very aggressive in their policies. They were very clear. They were very strategic that they need to expand their kingdom. They were doing whatever was possible in order to expand their kingdom. They were powerful. They were intellectual. So also a factor was contributed by powerful and ambitious rulers. And then obviously a very strong military. Military was well equipped. They had all the modern tools. They also made the use of what is known as elephants. So all these factors contributed to the rise of Magadha and dominance of Magadha in all the remaining as compared to all the remaining 15 Mahajanapadas. Now, if we see about Magadha, the very first prominent dynasty that emerged in the Magadha region that ultimately will lead to the establishment of what is known as Mauryan Empire was the Haryanka dynasty. So do remember Magadha, that is somewhat situated in present-day Bihar, defeated all the other great powers. It defeated Kosala, it defeated Vatsa, it defeated Avanti to establish what is called as the first major empire in India. And that first major empire will be known as the Mauryan Empire. But what were the dynasties in between? We are looking over that. So the first dynasty that established in the Magadha region was the Haryanka dynasty. And who was the founder of the Haryanka dynasty? It was Bimbisar. The time period of Bimbisar was close to 544 to 412 BC. Bimbisar is considered as the real founder of the Haryanka dynasty, and he expanded the kingdom through two policies, through conquest and through what is known as matrimonial alliances. So these two policies were adopted by the Bimbisar. Now, if we see, he conquered what is known as Anga. At the same time, he had matrimonial alliances with kingdoms of Kosala, Lichavis, also with Madra. So these are the three main matrimonial alliances that he had. And do remember that Bimbisar was actually a contemporary of Buddha. This was a direct previous year question that was asked by UPSC twice. So do remember Bimbisar, Buddha were contemporaries of each other. And Bimbisar had a policy of twofold ways in order to expand his empire. He either used to follow conquest policy, and he was able to conquer what is known as Ang, and then he had matrimonial alliances with Kosala, with Lichavis, with Madra. After Bimbisar, his son came to the power, and he was Ajatashatru. And the time period of Ajatashatru is 492 BC to 460 BC. So the first prominent thing that Ajatashatru did was he conquered the Vajji confederacy. So he had a very prolonged war with Vajji Confederacy, but ultimately he was able to conquer it. He also built a fort that later came to be known as Patliputra. So it was the efforts of Ajat He actually built a fort with the name of Pataligram, and this is what actually came to be known later as Patliputra. It is only at this point of time that Patliputra became the capital of the Magad from Girivraj. And he also hosted the first Buddhist council. At Rajagriha, the first capital of Magad that we saw 5 minutes before, he held the Buddhist council there. That is Rajagriha. So do remember these three contributions of Ajatashatru, that he did conquer the Vajji Confederacy. He built the first fort that later came to be known as Patliputra, and he held the first Buddhist council. Then comes another.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
can it also be a reason of the rise of Magadha that they shifted their capital from Rajgriha to Pataliputra?
Yeah, actually, Rajgriha also contributed to the rise of Magadha, but later on, when they shifted to Patliputra, the riverine trade benefited them a lot. And that was actually also the main reason that Magadha was able to rise. I did tell you, the strategic capitals, both the capitals
Yes.
contributed significantly. So you can't deny the importance of Rajgriha also, but yes, Patliputra also held immensely in trade. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
After, yeah.
ma'am, wasn't it Udayin, the son of Ajat-Shatru, the who founded the Patna Patliputra as the capital?
No. Ajatashatru actually built the fort of Patliputra, and Udayin shifted the capital from Rajgriha to Patliputra. There's a difference between the two. Ajatashatru was the one who built Patliputra, but the capital was shifted from Rajgriha to Patliputra by Udayin, who is the son of Ajatashatru.
Okay, got it, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes,
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, could be sorry for interrupting, ma'am, but ma'am, could be this could be one more reason for rising of Magad, that most of the rulers were Buddhist. So, ma'am, in their rule, ma'am, the Varna system was not properly followed. So society was not that conservative. So it could have contributed for development.
But you know what happened by later Vedic period? The society did become a lot conservative. But yes, with the rise of Buddhism and Jainism, the amount of orthodoxy did reduce. So your point can be considered, but it is, mainly it is stated from a point of view of benefiting the trade and commerce, not from the point of view of the rulers, but because of Buddhism and Jainism, trade did flourish a lot, because you would be knowing that in Jainism there is an idea that Jainist people never used to practice agriculture, right? Because Jainism always tells all its followers that do not harm anyone, do not kill anything. So they never used to even plow the soil because of the factor that the microbes could be killed. So as a result, the Jainism people moved from agriculture to what is known as trade and commerce. So they did help in the flourishment of trade and commerce and the rise of Mahajanapadas per se, because trade flourished a lot because of the Jainist ideology. Getting that?
Yes, ma'am, understood.
Yeah. So there was rise of Udayin. Now Udayin time period was mainly from 460 to 444 BC, and he was the one who shifted the capital from Rajgriha to Patliputra. Why? Because of the strategic location of the Patliputra. So do remember, these were the most prominent, powerful rulers of the Haryanka dynasty. The first was Bimbisar, followed by Ajatashatru, followed by Udayin. But ultimately, after Haryanka dynasty, we see the rise of what is known as Shishunaga dynasty. That is another dynasty altogether. Now, Shishunaga dynasty did one prominent thing. It did destroy all the power of the Avanti Mahajanapada. We saw Avanti Mahajanapada just 5 minutes before, right? So this Shishunaga dynasty destroyed all the powers of the Avanti dynasty, and they basically ended the long-standing rivalry. There was always a sort of rivalry between the Magad and the Avanti, but it comes to an end during the period of Shishunaga dynasty. And only prominent ruler that we need to know of the Shishunaga dynasty is Kal Ashok. Why Kal Ashok is important? Can anybody tell me? Why we just need to know about Kal Ashok? What did happen during the time phase of Kal Ashok?
Second Buddhist Council.
Great. It was Second Buddhist Council at Vaishali. Do you remember about all the Buddhist councils, their time period, the king who hosted it, the priest who was present, and the location? Very, very important for UPSC. And also do know at which particular Buddhist council we saw the rise of Hinayana, Mahayana, at which particular Buddhist council the main books were compiled, at which Buddhist council we saw the breakdown of Buddhism. You need to remember all those facts. After Shishunaga dynasty, we see the rise of what is known as Nandas or the Nanda dynasty. In Nanda dynasty, the most important ruler was Mahapadmanand. Mahapadmanand was actually also known as uprooter of the Kshatriyas. If a precise word has to be used, it is known as Sarva Kshatrantak. So he was known as the uprooter of all the Kshatriyas, and thereby the title that was given to him was Sarva Kshatrantak, and he was also known as Ekrat. That is the sole monarch. And because of his policies, he was very aggressive in his policies, and as a result, he greatly expanded the empire. The territorial extent of the empire, kept on increasing under the rule of Mahapadmanand. But after Mahapadmanand, we saw the rise of Dhananda. Dhananda was actually the last ruler of the Nanda dynasty, and he was extremely wealthy, but he was also unpopular due to heavy taxation. So he was unpopular due to his policy of heavy taxation, and he was ultimately thrown by Chandragupta Maurya, but with the help of Chanakya. And when they come into power, it is only then we see the rise of what is known as Mauryan dynasty. And this is the dynasty where we are going to actually focus a lot. So it was Dhananand who was the last ruler of the Nanda dynasty. And if we have to see period or the time period of Nanda dynasty, it is mainly 345 to 321 BC. And it is only in 321 BC that we see the rise of Chandragupta Maurya. We see the rise of Mauryan dynasty. We see the economic policies and the powerful policies of Chanakya coming to the forefront. We see the coming of Alexander into India. So all this happens during the phase of the Mauryan and the Nanda dynasty transition. So transition is from Nanda to Mauryan dynasty, and within this transition only we see the rise of Chandragupta Maurya. We also see the coming of Alexander to India. So do remember this timeline properly, that we go from Haryanka, mainly the Bimbisar, to Ajatshotru, to Udayi. Then we go to Shishunagas, where we have Kal Ashok holding the second Buddhist council at Vaishali. And then we have the Nanda dynasty, where we see the rise of Mahapadmanand, who also took the title of Ekrat. He greatly expanded the whole empire. And then we see the rise of Dhananand. Dhananand was very wealthy, but heavy taxation. He had a very, very, very large army, and it was believed that Dhananand cannot be defeated. But then We saw Chandragupta Maurya with the help of the Chanakya defeating him, overthrowing him, and establishing the Mauryan Empire. Now, Mauryan Empire is a prominent theme for both prelims and mains. So, we are also going to look over the mains questions while studying this Mauryan dynasty. But before this, we have seen three main themes: the rise of Mahajanapadas. We have seen why Magad was the most prominent empire, why did it flourish, and what was the timeline of all the dynasties. Now I want to give you a mains answer writing question for 10 marks. You have to write it in 150 words. I've been receiving a lot of answers from the past 2 days for the question the sir had given you. Right, I think the last copy I evaluated was in the morning per se. I've seen a lot of people are writing very good answers, but you need to follow the word limit in order to score marks. You can't write a 500 worded answer for a 10 marker question. You only get 2 pages in the actual UPSC mains examination. That is, you can't go beyond 150 words. And the minute you go beyond 150 words, there is going to be negative marking in the UPSC. Plus, you don't have that kind of time. You hardly get 3 hours to answer 20 questions. You have to write around 10 10 markers, and you have to write around 15 you have to write 10-15 markers. So you have to fill 20 pages for this. You have to fill around 30 pages for this. You are going to write 50 pages in 3 hours. Plus, you have to write another paper on the same day for 50 pages again for 3 hours. So you are going to fill around 100 pages in a single day. And it becomes humanly impossible to write this much. So whenever you are sending me all the copies for your mains answer writing, please follow the word limit of 150 words for a 10 marker. It will only going to help you. Now the question for today is related to Buddhism. Discuss the lasting impact of Buddhist philosophy and practice on the socio-cultural fabric of India. It's a 10 marker. You have to write in 150 words. That is maximum 2 pages. And please write it in a similar manner like a UPSC answer. Take one sheet, draw 2 margins on the side, and you are just going to write in the central area. Only 2 pages should be there. Okay. So this is the question. Do note it down. That discuss the lasting impact of the Buddhist philosophy and the practice on the socio-cultural fabric of India. Try to add examples, try to add flowcharts, try to make it as presentable as possible, and please try to write it within 10 minutes. Do not take help of any chat GPT, do not take help of any AI app, just use the knowledge based on the understanding of the previous class. Try to create a, solid 10 marker answer. Other than that, do you have any doubt for today's class? Just ask that.
Ma'am?
Yeah?
Ma'am, actually, I've done my ancient history from Vajiram lectures, and I was solving PYQs of modern and post-modern age. But
Okay.
with the help of notes, I was able to hit only 50% of the questions.
Okay.
And other 50% was not covered in the notes.
Vajiram and Ravi?
Yes, ma'am.
Which sir?
Praveen Dikshit, sir.
Okay, Praveen Dikshit sir. See, in history specifically, now UPSC has started going beyond the, the typical areas. If you have done the basic NCERT for ancient, medieval, and modern, that is more than enough. I think you would be able to answer most of the questions there are going to be certain questions you won't be able to answer in the actual prelims examination and also from the PYQ, because UPSC has tapped into other areas also. But just stick to the basic books. आपको प्रीलिम्स में 100 के 100 क्वेश्चंस के आंसर कभी नहीं आएंगे, किसी को नहीं आते हैं. मैक्सिमम आपको 40 क्वेश्चंस के आंसर डायरेक्टली आते होंगे, मतलब मैक्सिमम है ये. उतने भी आना ना आना बहुत डिपेंड करता है उस साल के पेपर पे. सो जस्ट एक चीज के लिए एक सोर्स उठाओ, और मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ एनसीईआरटी उठाओ. 10 सोर्सेस के पीछे मत भागो. एनसीईआरटी से जितना सॉल्व हो पा रहा है वो काफी है. अगर आप उतना भी कर पा रहे हो, अगर हिस्ट्री से 10 क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं यूपीएससी की प्रीलिम्स एक्चुअल एग्जामिनेशन में, आप अगर 5 से 6 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर पा रहे हो, आप प्रीलिम्स क्लियर कर लोगे. एज सिंपल एज दैट. बट ये जो भी 5 से 6 आप क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट करके आ रहे हो वो सही होने चाहिए. That is the only requirement. So if there is a particular question that is from an area that you don't know about, just get that extra information by understanding the PYQ. But now don't run after various resources. You don't have that kind of time. You are already in November, and from Jan onwards you would be just revising the things. You won't get any kind of time. So jitna Vajiram में करा दिया, just stick to those notes. अगर उसके साथ एनसीईआरटी करना चाहते हो प्लीज कर लो, या मतलब एंशियंट मिडिएवल की तो कर लो, या आर.एस. शर्मा फॉर एंशियंट हिस्ट्री एंड सतीश चंद्र फॉर मिडिएवल.
Okay, ma'am.
एंड बिपिन चंद्र फॉर मॉडर्न. ओके, जस्ट वन एनसीईआरटी. हर एक चीज के लिए वन एनसीईआरटी कर सकते हो, तो एक रीडिंग लगा लो ताकि चीजें आपको क्लियर हो जाए, एंड दैट वुड बी मोर देन इनफ. ओके,
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
परफेक्ट, यू आर वेलकम. सो
मैम एक
या
लाइक आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है मैम. मैम लाइक आप कह रहे हैं मैम कि प्रीलिम्स में लोग 30-40 क्वेश्चन से ज्यादा नहीं जानते, लाइक कोई भी नहीं जानता. तो मैम लाइक हाउ पीपल आर स्कोरिंग 120 130 मार्क्स लाइक.
दैट इज कॉल्ड स्मार्ट गेसिंग. ये भी एक तरीका होता है जो मैंने ओवर द ईयर सीखा. एंड अगर आप प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस एनालाइज करोगे ना, तो ये ट्रिक्स आपको भी आ जाएंगे. सो इट इज ऑल अबाउट स्मार्ट इंटेलेक्चुअल गेसिंग. आफ्टर 40 क्वेश्चंस, इन ऑर्डर टू रीच 80 और 90 क्वेश्चंस, हम सिर्फ एलिमिनेट करते हैं बाकी ऑप्शंस को जितना पॉसिबल है, एंड देन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअल गेसिंग. ऐसी नहीं, तुक्के वाली गेसिंग नहीं होती, बहुत आइडियाज लगाते हैं, बहुत इंटरकनेक्शंस करते हैं, एंड देन वी एलिमिनेट क्वेश्चन. सो आई रिमेम्बर डूइंग 97 क्वेश्चंस इन प्रीलिम्स in the year 2022, 100 questions में से in GS, and at the first instance I knew only 32 questions. I remember बहुत tough paper था, मतलब उस साल I think पूरा का पूरा पैटर्न चेंज हो गया था, and prelims में वो शॉक मिला था. तो मैंने डायरेक्टली देखा 32 questions मैं डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली सॉल्व कर पा रही थी. उसके बाद मैंने सिर्फ एलिमिनेशन करा, इंटेलेक्चुअल गेसिंग किया. ये कब आती है? जब आप प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस को 2-2 बार 3-3 बार अच्छे से एनालाइज कर लेते हैं, तभी ये आपको चीजें समझ आती है. बट इससे रिलेटेड भी अगर पॉसिबल हो पाया, आई विल गिव यू द गाइडेंस. देखते हैं ये कैसे हो पाता है. बट उसके लिए पहले आई नो पीवाईक्यू अगर किसी ने आपको ढंग से अगर एनालाइज नहीं करना सिखाया ना, आप कभी वो एक्चुअल प्रीलिम्स कर ही नहीं पाओगे. एंड there's a lot of PYQ analysis video in the market, but they don't tell you what to analyze. They don't tell you how to analyze. They don't tell you how analyzing a question is going to help you in the actual prelims. So देखती हूँ मैं ये possible हो पाता है तो. But only one god जो आपको prelims clear कराएगा वो है PYQ. I'm telling you, nobody tells that. Everybody is like cutting the competition, but अगर आपने PYQ अच्छे से analyze कर लिया, and I mean अच्छे से from the year 2013 onwards to the last year, एंड अगर मैं आपसे कोई भी क्वेश्चन पूछूं और आपको उसके ऑप्शंस भी पता है अभी से, तो आपको प्री कोई नहीं रोक सकता, गिवन द फैक्ट दैट आपको सीसेट आता हो. मतलब सीसेट शुड नॉट बी द एलिमिनेटेड. गिवन सीसेट आता हो, आपका प्रीलिम्स अगर आपको पीवाईक्यू आते हैं तो नहीं रुकेगा.
ओके मैम. सो दैट इज द गेम.
या स्पीकर.
मैम मैं एक बात पूछ सकती हूँ? एक्चुअली मैं एक कॉलेज स्टूडेंट हूँ, मतलब अंडर ग्रेजुएट हूँ. तो मेरा अब ना कॉलेज का सेमेस्टर चल रही है. तो आज ये 100 डेज का जो स्टडी प्लान है उसका मेरा पहला क्लास है. तो मेरा जब सेमेस्टर खत्म होगा, मैं सब सारे के सारे बैकलॉग क्लियर करके, अगर आप जो होमवर्क में जो आंसर लिखने दे रहे हैं, अगर तब मैं बैकलॉग क्लियर करके आपको वो आंसर लिख के भेजूँ, क्या आप चेक कर देंगे? मतलब वो पॉसिबल हो सकता है क्या?
मतलब आप अकेडमी को भेजेंगे. आई डोंट नो हाउ लॉन्ग माई एसोसिएशन विद अकेडमी विल बी. So feel free to send to the academy and I think they will surely evaluate it. So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, ma'am.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So having addressed all the questions, रोहित ने कहा है बुद्धिज्म के टॉपिक्स एंड जैनिज्म मिस हुआ है, तो मैं देखती हूँ अगर मैं उसकी कल क्लास अरेंज करा सकती हूँ तो. अदरवाइज आई
जैनिज्म
विल
क्या है
टेक
मैम?
केयर.
बुद्धिज्म हो गया था शायद से, जैनिज्म ही पूरा बाकी है.
पूरा जैनिज्म बाकी है. बट रोहित सेट की बुद्धिज्म में सर ने स्कूल्स नहीं कराए.
जी मैम, वो फिलोसफिकल स्कूल्स नहीं है, वो करवाए थे मतलब कि.
चलो ठीक है. आई विल लुक इनटू दैट एंड जैसे भी होता है आई अरेंज अ क्लास एंड विल लेट यू नो. ओके, जस्ट रिवाइज एंड जब भी टाइम मिले सिर्फ पीवाईक्यू खुद से बैठ के एनालाइज करने हैं. खुद लेके बैठो पीवाईक्यू, उसके ऑप्शंस देखो किस एरिया से आ रहा है ये पर्टिकुलर ऑप्शन, बार बार क्यों पूछा जा रहा है. And then trust me, the process will become a lot simplified. So all the very best, guys. Study well.
थैंक यू मैम.
You're welcome, Abhishek.